Employees need to know that if an employers need to know that if an employee comes to them with claims of sexual harassment, that they need to take a closer look, take it seriously, and then do something about it. One would have thought that that's very obvious. But what we find in the case that we're talking about now, the CCMA and its findings, this is not always the case. So welcome to the program and share with our listeners the details of this particular case.
Good morning, Iman, and good morning to the viewers and the listeners. Yeah, in this particular case, what had happened is that a senior employee had been the victim of 2 incidents of sexual harassment. On one particular occasion, a colleague had inappropriately touched her on the back, and on a second occasion, she had been pinched on the waist. And although the employee in this matter did not initially report the first incident, she effectively, when the second incident happened, followed the processes as was outlined in the company's sexual harassment policy and reported the matter. What then effectively happened is about a period of 2 months had lapsed before this matter was properly investigated. A disciplinary hearing was held, and in that disciplinary hearing process, the chairperson had found that there was insufficient evidence really to corroborate or support the case of sexual harassment. The employee subsequently, aggrieved by that decision, had referred a case to the CCMA, where the commissioner arbitrating the dispute had found that the incidents constituted acts of sexual harassment and effectively ordered the employer to pay the employee compensation specifically for their failure to ensure that the matter was properly investigated and attended to as outlined in their policies. And I think it does just reiterate the importance that of the obligation that employers have to ensure compliance with their own policies.
Yeah.
We know very often, and we've seen, sexual harassment is one of the most heinous forms of misconduct in the workplace. And this is just a reminder of the need to properly investigate, address, and eliminate sexual harassment.
So we'll tease out the details of that CCMA finding, because I think it's very important for employers to be aware of. But in the case that we're talking about here, my understanding is the employee, after approaching the employer, was referred to the ethics committee, and then that was the lapse of time that happened before the ethics committee was able to look at the matter and then made its findings, which were then dealt with differently at the CCMA. So how did the employer what should they have done in the first instance, aside from referring it to the ethics committee?
Once an incident of sexual harassment has been reported, be it to a company's ethics committee, some companies don't even have ethics committees, to HR, whoever, the obligation then comes to properly investigate those allegations. And to properly investigate allegations requires an employer to consult with all relevant parties that potentially either witnessed the incident or were involved in the incident. And in this particular case, it was that lack of proper investigation or consultation that ultimately impacted here on the decision that was made by the CCMA. It's also evident if one looks at the fact that the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing that was held found that there was insufficient evidence. That also suggests that there wasn't, not all the witnesses were properly called, questioned, or testified during the course of those internal proceedings in order to make out the proper case of sexual harassment.